On this map, the title actually has a mistake, and I apologize. It should say Delta Orchard City and Hotchkiss added to the Four Corners district, not Cedar Ridge. So this is quite a dramatic change from how things are. As you can see, they go over and looped in Cortez to make sure they put it with Durango. This is definitely, obviously for population purposes, it's not necessarily needed to have Cortez with Durango. I just want everyone to know that. And it's not needed to go this far up into Delta County at all. When talking about keeping districts compact and keeping communities of interest together, it is important to realize, for example, Delta and Montrose for a long time had the nation's oldest football rivalry. That ended when Montrose grew and entered the next size league up. There are just a lot of differences. Businesses will tell you in Delta that they will almost never have Montrose customers, but they will have customers from Mesa County and some from San Miguel County. I don't know if this is a cultural divide or what it is, but there is a feeling that there are two different groups of people, that's for sure. This area right in here where my mouse is hovering, it's the Grand Mesa. So Delta and Mesa counties share the Grand Mesa. And that's something that you can point out when you're making a comment. They also share the Dominguez and Escalante canyons over here. So this was an argument that was made for keeping the third CD together. And the Grand Mesa and Dominguez and Escalante were two key arguments that were made to the commission 10 years ago and were currently being made right now to keep the third CD together, basically being the Western Slope as a whole. The reason why I make these is when you think about representation, it's not, do you love your representative or do you hate them? It's really important to think about what would make a really good district for representation, not necessarily partisan-wise, although I do think about that from being a partisan actor. But I think about it in terms of, representing the entire Grand Mesa absolutely makes sense because you have the watersheds that affect different municipalities. And it means that that representative, when they're making the argument for the Grand Mesa, it's much more emotional because it's your backyard. If a representative lives way down here and they have part of the Grand Mesa, you have kind of this conflict of, are you on the north side or the south side of the Mesa? That may be getting way into the weeds, but I just kind of wanted to illustrate why it's important that some areas really should stay together when it comes to representation. Here is the current Senate map. So all of Mesa County is together. As you can see, there's the central Senate district. And yeah, it's pretty self-explanatory. Here's the preliminary Senate map. There's absolutely no gerrymandering here. I mean, what's this? This little bit that my mouse is hovering over is the North Fork of Delta County added to Senate District 6. This is really, really weird. I mean, if someone were to tell me that the preliminary maps had absolutely no gerrymandering involved, I would have taken one look at these maps and said, you've got to be kidding me. In many ways, the preliminary maps are even worse than the current maps because why would you take this area? And if you know your geography, this is essentially national forest. No way to really go across. I mean, I suppose there's some snowmobile routes or four-wheeler routes, but you want your senator to be able to somehow cross the district mostly on the same road, or at least have the option to, even in summertime. Aside from the wineries, I don't really see what the similarities are between Mesa County and the North Fork. I mean, there's probably some other similarities that someone could make. And then likewise, it's also not very compact. That's just one example right there. We could go in and kind of nitpick each one of these districts quite a bit. Dylan Roberts, 2 days ago, he's a representative from Eagle County. He represents Eagle and Routt County currently. He just announced he's running for the state Senate. So if you look at what's Senate District 34 in this preliminary map, who knows what the official numbers will be in the end? These are kind of their working numbers, which I kind of wish they had stuck to similar numbers, but they didn't. I mean, this district definitely looks like an even stronger Democrat district than it already is. because under the current Senate map, it includes Delta, which is a Republican stronghold, and Hinsdale County, which is also a Republican stronghold. They're taken out. Although Hinsdale doesn't have a lot of voters, they definitely strengthened this to try to put all of the major ski resorts in central Colorado together. And that was kind of their scheme in doing so.
So would that be an example of violating the factor of creating competitive districts?
Yes, I would argue that, although communities of interest outweighs competitive districts is what I've been told. So the ski resorts have made the argument that they're a community of interest. And that's actually a pretty strong argument. I mean, if you think about it, that major ski resorts like Vail and Beaver Creek and Avon and Crested Butte and Aspen and Buttermilk, all these places should probably be represented together because they do have a similar way of thinking and culture. I mean, that's certainly not a bad argument, not at all. Mm-hmm. I find that a difficult argument because, I mean, you have ski resorts all throughout this area with Telluride, and of course we have Powderhorn and Steamboat Springs. So certainly, if I was the ski industry, I'd want more senators in my back pocket than really just one. But that's not what the law says. So they would look and say, well, this district looks pretty compact, and the community of interest undermining this district would be, or sorry, not undermining, underlying this district would be the ski resorts and the resort mentality.
Mm-hmm. So you would really need a very strong Republican candidate to overcome. Dylan Roberts is a pretty formidable candidate, I think.
He's pretty tough, and under the current map, this could be winnable, although it's kind of a Hail Mary winnable. It's not exactly a line of sight winnable. This is a impossible winnable. Mm-hmm. If you're a Republican. If you're a Democrat, your only fear is the primary.
Can you go back one more? Can you go back to that one more time?
This one or the one before?
The one before, real quick. I just want to take a picture. I'm just going to do a side-by-side on these. Thank you. Sorry about that. Thanks.
Oh, no, that's fine.
So Matt, have you addressed the matter of the extent to which this process has been influenced by the state GOP or people engaged by the state GOP?
Yes, I'll talk on that. So
okay.
The Colorado Republican Party, the House Republicans and the Senate Republicans hired Alan Phillips, Greg Brophy, and Frank McNulty to represent our interests. In speaking to all of them and in listening to their presentations, their only goal is to increase the numbers in the state house and, if possible, increase the numbers in the state Senate. They are not concerned about the Western Slope. And as a matter of fact, anyone who was on the call with the state party who heard, I think it was either Frank or Alan, say, Delta County is divided and you need to take one for the team. They said that to Delta County's Republican chair, Dave Bradford. I mean, that was just a slap in the face. And it really does show how we're a divided Republican Party as well, that guys on the Front Range are really only concerned about boosting our numbers, which I'm concerned about too. I think we ought to. But if we boost our numbers in the suburbs of Denver in such a way that we lose a seat on the Western Slope, the Democrats actually got what they wanted. They're getting inroads on the Western Slope, and the suburbs won't last long being in Republican hands because our state is changing. And unless we're able to reverse the influx of Californians into the suburbs, we only have probably 2 to 4 years to hang on to the gains we're going to be receiving from redistricting. So
the gains that they think they can get, they wouldn't bring the party anywhere really close to controlling either chamber, would they?
No, we would move from maybe 24 to 29 in the state house, and you need 33 to control things. And would move from maybe 15 to 16 in the state Senate.
And that raises a larger question in my mind, which is, what the heck is the long-range plan for the GOP in Colorado if the demographics on the Front Range are changing against the GOP? I mean, what the hell's the point, right? I mean, what's the plan? I mean, who cares if you're within 2 or 3 seats of controlling a chamber if you don't have a plan for getting control? I mean, this is the big question to me.
Yeah. So I'll tell you the plan. So you get as close as practicable to that majority, because it means that instead of having 2 more Democrats in committees, you only have 1. And flipping 1 Democrat vote is possible. Flipping 2 is impossible. So it moves us to within striking distance. But B, it's really important we protect rural Colorado for conservative voters, because Colorado has very deep pockets of red. And you see that across the entire Western Slope and Eastern Plains. And to me, it's utterly offensive to structure some of these districts in such a way that an area that is deep red, solidly conservative, could then have Democrat representation, all because we were so focused on Jefferson County and Arapahoe County that we missed the ball. Mm-hmm. And my fear for the big picture in the future is what I just said, that we'll make some short-term gains, and then we find ourselves 4 years from now looking back saying, oh shoot, our numbers are dwindling, and we even lost a seat or 2 on the Western Slope. Well, well, that's not the place I want to be in, which is why I'm giving this presentation tonight, to hopefully make a switch that will save us Northwestern Colorado. Yes, it will help me, but more importantly, it helps keep communities of interest that have been together for this entire time that we've been doing legislative districts, try to keep those places together as long as possible, because I mean, it's the way people naturally flow. It's where they work. It's where they live.
Well, could we, so I don't want to pursue that one now. That's not the point of this presentation, and I'll take time away from your vacation. But just looking at your situation, would it be helpful if you provided comments, as I asked before, areas where you would like people to comment about the district you'd like to continue to represent? And then could we ask the other sitting members of the General Assembly to do the same thing, mm-hmm. and say, hey, give us some comments, guys. I mean, if you want to keep your districts, then give us some ammunition. We need talking points. And I know that the commissions don't want to see form letters coming in, and they don't want to hear the same thing over and over again, but they do hear repetitive. They want, it helps to hear a lot of people saying pretty much the same kind of thing. So we need that. We need that from the. Don't you agree, Kevin, that we need that from these guys?
No, it would really be helpful to have something from Perry Will in particular, Matt in particular, Mark Caitlin, and I'm forgetting him now, Don Corum, in particular, on these maps. Christy has actually sent me some of the redraws that she's wanting me to present, which moves Matt back into his district, moves Perry Will back into his district, leaves the commonality, which should exist and has existed for 30 years. The thing for everybody to remember, I actually testified the last time they did this, and they took a 33-32 Republican majority in the House from the election of 2010 and turned it into a 37-29 or 37-28 Democrat majority just by redistricting people into and out of districts. It's going to be important that we have a big turnout, because over on the Eastern Slope in Aurora and places like that, there have been huge Democrat turnout. So we need to put our voice in there. I will try to get those maps downloaded. Obviously, there's been some other stuff that I've been working on. But Christy has asked me to present these maps at the hearing here on July 30th. And I'll try and get them together where I can get them out to you, and you folks can use them as well. But what it does is returns Delta back, Western Delta County back to Mesa County. It takes that little bulge out of the top of Mesa County and returns it back to where it belongs. And actually, I think one of the maps takes part of Gunnison because the rest of Gunnison has nothing in common with Crested Butte. I hate to say that, but there is no commonality between Crested Butte and the rest of Gunnison County. And so actually, I think the goal is to return Gunnison County back to a common seat with Montrose, because there's a lot more, again, commonality between Montrose and Gunnison. Highway 50 runs right up from Montrose right up to Gunnison and then all the way east. So there are maps out there that are going to be presented. I'm planning on testifying, and I know we're going to get groups from a bunch of other groups to testify, but we need to be voice and really, Matt talked about this a little bit. We can't say, hey, put Matt Soper back where he belongs. And you can't do, hey, put Perry Will back where he belongs. But what you can do is say, Western Delta County has been traditionally teamed with Mesa County because of the commonality of agriculture and the rivers and Highway 50. That continuity needs to be preserved because it's been there for a long time, and there is a commonality because people move towards Grand Junction. And frankly, I don't think, and you don't have Olathe on the map, but this Senate district in particular, and the House district, Olathe has much more in common with Montrose. They belong there. So if you cut that Western Delta County and put it back where it belongs, you have more commonality. Paonia, we don't have anything in common with Paonia. I don't understand why they're doing this other than, they're not supposed to be able to look at the who lives where, but you have a hard time convincing me that they didn't look at a map and say, hey, we can put Mark Caitlin and Matt Soper together and make them fight it out. So I'm planning on being there next Friday as soon as he shows us how to sign up.
Okay, Matt, so please proceed, because I want to have some time for some questions.
Well, thank you. And I'm showing just how Delta County is divided because it's a good example of how crazy this map is. It's a little bit more detailed. And Kevin, I just want to say thank you so much for being there and presenting and having a map.
I already yelled at our side, so I might as well yell at everybody.
Thank you. Well, it's been really frustrating because throughout this process, I've heard over and over again, they don't want to hear from incumbents. They don't want to hear from incumbents. So people like Perry Will, myself, Mark Catlin, all of us are relying, and even the House Republicans really, are relying on everyone on this call to make the arguments that we can't make. So the role has been reversed here. Normally, we're the ones who go to the chambers of power to advocate on your behalf. All of a sudden, it's been reversed to where we can't speak. We've been muted. And now it's everyone who's listening to this call. It's the activists, it's the volunteers, it's the people. They're the ones who have to go and advocate for their representatives, for their communities of interest, for their part of Colorado. So how do you do this? Public comments. So you can do written and oral testimony, and then you can submit maps. Like I said, you must sign up 1 week in advance. I will email my PowerPoint to Maurice, and maybe you could just send it out to everyone, Maurice, because you can click on the hyperlink to help you out. On July 30th, they'll be in Montrose at 11 a.m. at the Ute Indian Museum. And then also on July 30th, they'll be in Grand Junction at Colorado Mesa University. Old things die hard, at 7 p.m. And then on July 31st, they'll be in Carbondale at 11 a.m. So what's the game plan? I've already described it a little bit. One would be ask that Delta County be made whole. That's probably not going to happen. At least have Western Delta County be put in with Mesa County. The switch that we've been talking about with having Glenwood be part of Aspen and the Roaring Fork, and that what's Rifle and Silt be returned to Northwestern Colorado and the Western Delta County be returned to Mesa County. This is kind of this clockwork change that we've been talking about. Here are some alternative maps that different individuals have crafted for me.